Up in there too. All right. All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Regeneration XY. Um, Today we are dealing with a really heavy issue.
Yo, one
So
question. You gonna let the music play?
I am gonna let the music play until I get ready to fade it out. Can I? It's called an intro. Ever heard of
I'm
that
just
before, Robbie?
asking. Nah,
You should try it at Grace and Truth.
we got a countdown.
It's still a good way to intro while please don't interrupt me again, okay? Until I call for you, my man. So we're dealing with a
Ooh.
very controversial situation, my good friend, my good fellow. We're looking at today. Why does God allow good things to happen to? Why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Um, and so I think a lot of people struggle with this at times, trying to really figure out why um, God does this. Um, I know that there was a time in my life where I was wondering, there was a bunch of bad stuff going on in my life, and I was trying to figure out, I'm a good person, Well, why do these things happen? If you ever felt like that, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Y'all ever feel like that before, or is it just me?
Yeah,
If you-
yeah, yeah. Several times.
Are y'all tired today? Is that what's
Oh,
going on?
I'm
Is that
good.
I'm
No.
good.
I'm waiting.
all right? So,
Trust me, I'm good.
I guess the first way to look at this question of why does bad things happen to good people? Why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Is for the simple of is it start with the question of what is good. I think that a lot of times, we think that we're good people. I think I'm a good person. Um, but that good is in say what?
I think that
Oh,
was your feedback, bro.
no, I can't hear my feedback, so it couldn't be me. But good is a relative term. It's a term that we seem to think about of ourselves, but are we really good? You know, Randall, you think you're a good person, right?
I'm sorry.
I
Were
said
you
you
not
think you're a
listening?
good person, right?
I feel that I am.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? You think
And
you're a good
I
person?
try I try to be, I try to make the best decisions. I try to stay on the right side of the fence, if that's what you want to call it. I try to I try to at least be mindful of what's right and what's wrong. So yeah, I feel I'm a good person.
Well, I think that we all do, but I think the question to Randall is that who do you compare your good to? That's when we start off with today. Who do you compare your good to?
Oh, that's a lot of that's oh man, that's a loaded
Because
question.
see, that's the question
Nah,
we got to
not
ask.
really.
See,
That's
Not a
in,
loaded
actually a loaded
question.
in
question.
in order to be good, right, you must compare yourself to somebody else. We know, like when you was in grammar school, high school, and you played basketball, you thought that you were good at playing basketball until you looked at yourself play against
I'm
And
sorry.
somebody better.
Have you seen
exactly.
Tim play?
Hmm?
Have you seen Tim play?
Well, you even thought that you were good until you played some real competition.
And somebody broke your ankles.
Because
Sorry, never
there's
got my ankles broken.
well, then I mean that you never played nobody really good. Because had you played Derrick Rose, you'd be on the ground somewhere crying.
First of
Exactly.
all, I play for the fun of it. I ain't trying to play to get embarrassed. You know, I know my limitations. Now, if
I'm
y'all
just
two
saying.
don't, that's y'all problem.
I'm just saying. If it's Derrick Rose, you're gonna get embarrassed all over the place because he's just that good.
I
Um,
agree.
I
and
mean,
so
yeah, because he broke his own ankles. And they ain't been right ever since.
okay, we're gonna edit that part out this show because Derrick Rose, if you want to donate on this Giving Tuesday to us, we are not gonna let Robbie and his hate interfere with that.
Oh wow, wow.
That was a haterade comment right there. That was a haterade
No,
comment.
I mean, was it not true?
Yeah, it's definitely not true.
Oh, okay.
And I bring that up because we see at different times when Paul compares himself to different people, he refers to himself in different ways. So, uh, when Paul was saying that he was the greatest amongst the apostles, or had no shame amongst the apostles, he was comparing himself to the other men who were preaching Jesus. And some even preaching Jesus was just the idea that people thought they were better, but he's the best of them. But when Paul compares himself to Jesus, he calls himself the chief of sinners.
Mm.
And so I think a lot of times the idea is that we think that we're good people because, I don't hurt nobody, I don't kill, I don't do anything like that. Neither did Jesus. And on top of that, Jesus didn't gossip. And on top of that, he didn't get jealous. And on top of that, he didn't move, he didn't let his wrath move him to sin. And on top of that, Jesus was perfect. And so even when you look at someone like Job, who is called perfect, he had flaws as well. You
Yeah,
know,
a lot
so
of them.
so the first thing to look at this is that we are not good on our own. We're only good because Christ has died for us. And so the next thing that ends up happening is that there is evil in this world. We do have evil in this world, you know. Um
I mean, we
I
are tempted by sin and as well as infected by and by it. So yeah,
well, here's a question today. How many of you all pray before you do anything?
Like, are we saying consistently,
essentially,
sporadically,
Who prays
occasionally?
before they do anything?
Again, are we talking about frequency? Because I don't want people raising their hands and they did it one time.
that's what I'm saying. That's I ain't gonna say it's a loaded question, but I'm just saying like
It's not a
No,
loaded
every
question.
on a
it's not a
Not a
lot of
loaded,
question.
consistent
not a
Like
loaded
I just
question.
basis.
need to know, I just need to know frequency.
Like, what's
Well,
the list?
okay, let me phrase it then. Who prays to God before they do everything?
All right, I'm gonna keep my hand down there.
Okay, then yeah, I definitely ain't raising my hand on that one.
Now, Texas, I know people who do this, right? But sometimes, right, because there is evil in the world, sometimes there is things that God's going to let happen, and God may tell you not to do something, not to go somewhere, not to eat something, and guess what you do? Because you hard headed, you gonna eat it anyway. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? Right? I remember being one of my boys one time, and this girl thought that her boyfriend was cheating on her, right?
mm,
So God told my boy who could hear God, he told him, don't mess with this girl.
mm.
And my boy was hard headed and he messed with her. And so he drove the girl around the corner and she took a rock and broke his windows out of his car.
Mm.
After he drove her around the corner.
He drove her around the corner. She got out his car, picked up a rock, and broke his windows and hopped back in his car. This now began
Um.
a
Oh, okay.
20 to 40-minute car chase as we tried to get away because I was in the backseat of the car during this time frame, right?
Oh, oh.
Wait. Get away from who? If she got back in the car.
So the boyfriend was outside when she broke his window. So now he hops in the car
Ah, got you.
to
Got
go
you.
chase
Got you.
down my boy.
Got you. Got you. I
And
follow. My bad.
we are running away in the car because my boy did not listen. And
Well,
I
y'all more like driving away than y'all are running.
Like a getaway car. I mean, like fleeing the scene in this mother.
Getaway driver.
Right. Grand Theft Auto getaway.
Nah, that wasn't Grand Theft Auto, bro. They didn't steal nothing.
the point was that we had to get away, right? And the situation could have been avoided had
Had he, because he was
we
the driver.
no, because I could easily have said we shouldn't be doing this, but I was down for a good time too. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And we ended up getting chased. And I remember he finally decided, he's in the car. He said, "Oh, I didn't want to shut up." And now he finally decides to listen to God, and God tells him, "Don't pull up in front of my house." And we can understand why they're at my house, and we realized that the girl who broke out the window stayed across the street from my house. And so we literally had to, did not come in. He was literally outside my house, uh,
Waiting.
on the side of her house, waiting for her to come back. And
Ooh.
we were able to get away because he finally listened. So, um, sometimes, you face bad things because of disobedience. Sometimes because there's evil all around. There are people who are going to try to hurt you, and Ren, like, Ren, leave that girl alone. Leave her alone. She's not worth it. You know. Um, and
Dang,
I
bro,
think
you
that's.
just you just putting your business out there in the street.
I mean,
Told
I'm
that
just saying.
story and then said your name. That's
Right.
bogus.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could go really deep, but I don't know who watches these videos on a replay, and.
I would suggest you don't.
Okay. So is it in a sense whereas we make conscious decisions to do something, and a voice in the back of our head saying, "Don't do it," and we don't listen, and then next thing you know, when we do it, those bad consequences come behind it. So could that be it?
I,
I mean, could that be it?
just to say it like that would mean that God is punitive, right? And God is not about getting his lick back. You disobeyed me. I'm gonna get my lick
No,
back.
it's not about disobeying. It's that it's pretty much saying he trying to prevent you from doing bad.
But no, God prevents you from getting in places of danger. Because see, here's the situation here, right? Let's say that God. So I had a buddy, a really close friend of mine, really close. We were really tight, and he tells my other buddy, he says him that not to go around this guy anymore. And I was like, "Yo, this is our friend,"
Mm,
and you know he kind of cut us both off. But the thing was that God was going to put him through a test, or through a situation,
mm.
right? That I was not supposed to be a part of. But because I refused to listen, I end up going through a situation as well. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of time it's not your battle. Some things that Robbie goes through is not your battle. It's Robbie's battle. But because you hard headed,
Or
no, I gotta be
or
loyal.
or or
Robbie's battle.
sometimes, well, I would say this too. Sometimes you're in a situation, not necessarily because it's your battle, but because of the relationship you have with the individual, God has to kind of remove you from the situation in some shape, form, or fashion. If that makes sense to you.
Mm.
Explain what you mean by that.
Okay, so for instance, um, I had a situation whereas I want to say this was Christmas Day, maybe about 3 years ago. Christmas Day, about 3 years ago, I picked my daughter up from her mom. We were on the expressway coming back home. And then there was like this sudden slowdown after, flowing traffic. Well, what wound up happening is there was an accident on the other side of the expressway. So as we're driving, the car in front of me makes a sudden stop. Me, being a little bit too close, bam, hit the car.
Mm.
I am legitimately ticked off right now because I'm like, I just couldn't understand why we were slowing down to begin with, anyhow. But anyway, fast forward and pretty much making it back home after filing for police reports and all the other good exchange of information. I get a phone call from someone asking to borrow some money. because they needed help. And normally I would help the person out. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the person calling is because of the nature of our relationship. The individual knew that at the drop of a dime, if I had it, I would help. But during that particular call, it was just like, yeah, I just got into an accident. I have no money right now because I got to save my money to pay for this accident. And later on, what we came to find out, me and the individual, is that with me being on the sideline, the person he was with really had to sit back and learn how to rely on each other. And it kind of showed them who their friends really are that they can call on in a time of need, and the ones that they can't. So like in a situation like that, it's not my battle. But because of the nature of the friendship that I have with that person, it's like, yeah, I got to sit him out. Because, I mean, in all honesty, who's going to have a friend call and it's like, yeah, I can't help you right now, but no rhyme or reason, even if that voice is telling you, I don't think you should help, because that's your friend, and your personality, you're going to go try to help. And since God knows that, now he has to put you in a situation where you can't help because he's trying to teach this other person a lesson. Well, I don't want to say teaching a lesson, but he's trying to show this other person something.
How to be independent, or
Not necessarily.
how to be
It's not necessary.
independent, or
Sometimes it's not. It's not even about independence. It's about reliance. And I would say even in that situation, it was just about learning, number one, what it really means to depend on each other. But also, I would say in a sense, sometimes it's about when two people are trying to build something, one person needs to see, hey, when you throw all of our funds or our material out to other people and nothing is coming back in, it adds a lot of pressure on my side if I have to go out to my friends to borrow some material, because we still got to pay that back, but your people ain't paying nothing back.
Well, I think that is, and I appreciate that, friend.
yeah.
Um, because I'm that friend, but
Hey, I didn't say no names.
I don't. Hey, listen. But unfortunately, I think that is a very self-centered approach to it, and being seen as it's about me. Yeah, that's a very self-centered approach to take. I would love to have made that about me. I think the more important thing about the story was that um, this is kind of hard to say. All right. I think that
Yeah,
the
you can't
toughest
hear Randall? We can hear.
the toughest thing, he's frozen right now, uh, was that you were, in a sense, a type of God, right? I depended on you or Justin or Vince or Tito or Randall or whoever to provide for me. Um, and the thing was that, and I guess this leads to one of our other reasons why I'm bad at having good people. Um, I needed to realize that there needed to be a dependency on God, and not necessarily Robbie. And because Robbie, who is a loyal friend, was going to do whatever he could to help, God said, if I don't restrict Robbie, then he's going to help and mess up what I'm trying to do here. On the same end of that same story, and this is how cool God at the same time. God had also told Robbie to do something in his life that he was prolonging doing as well. So
That was that one though.
in one instance, he took care of two situations at one time to teach two different lessons.
Yeah, that wasn't that situation though.
Doesn't matter.
That that one came later.
The bottom line is that so sometimes God is going to put you into a situation for a test because he needs you to see that I'm the one that you rely on. Some people lose their jobs because God is saying that I'm the one that you rely on. Some people lose their house because I'm the one that you rely on. And these things happen to people because God is big on you realizing that
You have to rely on him.
I gave you Robbie, I gave you Justin, I gave you these guys, and they cool cats to have on your corner, but I gave you them. They didn't come to the game ready like this. I brought them to you. And so, I want you to realize that. Um, so a lot of times that's what it ends up being. It's the idea of where are you at? Because see, the situation with Job wasn't about Job. It was to show Job where he was and also to show the devil where he was. That's the cool thing about it. Job thought that he had it all together himself. And a lot of times that you think you got it all together. Um, one pastor was preaching one day and he said that he had went 2 weeks without a sin,
Woo, really?
and he
He
I'd
felt
felt
like to know how
I'm
he
sorry,
did
what was
that.
that?
He went 2 weeks without a sin. I
he
would
went out.
like to know
He
how he
went
did
two
that.
Ooh, I
weeks
like you do
without a
that.
sin, and he felt really good about himself. And so in prayer, he told God, he said, "You know what, God, I ain't sinned in 2 weeks. I'm doing pretty good." And at that moment, God told him repent
Mm.
because he was saying how he had done good when God was saying I had protected you from doing anything wrong.
For 2 weeks.
You know what I'm saying? And it's those type of things where we don't even have the mental capacity to understand what God is doing in our lives. Now, sometimes you think that you're doing good. If you went 5 minutes without sinning, that's not you. That's God.
Mm.
If you went
Yeah,
that much time,
I think it's the complacency of it all. I think oftentimes I don't think it's the fact that we don't have the mindset where we can't understand it, because I think there are people that do have that mindset and really do understand it. And I think what happens is we hit this level of complacency, where everything is going good, that yeah, you just have a lapse in judgment and make the comment of like, yeah, I've been doing good, I've been crushing it. And at that moment also it's like, oh yeah, well, that's over. I just ended that streak as well. I think I feel like you also have to keep that in mind as well, you know,
Mm.
because we got some very knowledgeable people that will probably be like, no, I'm very aware that God is the center of my life. And then as we start having conversations, and I was doing this and I was doing that. Okay, I'm gonna have to repent when I get home because I just messed everything up. So that as well.
I concur. I concur. All right. So the next part about it is sometimes just to bring God glory. And that's another tough one because
I,
it hurts a little bit when those things happen.
why would we say sometimes?
Huh?
I think it's. I mean, I think it's all the time is to bring God glory. I just think sometimes we don't
No,
understand that.
no. Well, sometimes it's for you to see where you are, and then sometimes it's to witness to somebody else's life, and that brings God glory. See, you know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by I say see God's glory. It's to witness to somebody else because somebody else. I give a great example. You may be having a tough time financially. You know what I'm saying? Um, you may lose your job. So there's somebody out there in the world who lost their job, right? Was technically homeless, right? Um, and in that time frame of being homeless, met a girl, got a job, and in 7 years went from making nothing to $400,000 a year.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And that can make you say, "Man, God is good." And then when you ask that person, "Well, how did you do all this?" The response gonna be,
I didn't. God did.
God
God,
did it.
God did. And so, those are those. So sometimes that's what it is. Just simply like, yeah, it wasn't me. It was God. God did it. You know.
I mean,
Um,
take a look at Joseph.
let's talk
His
about
brother.
what about Joseph?
I
Yeah.
mean, in Genesis. Take a look at Joseph. He was in a messed up situation where his brother sold him. He started off in a dream saying that how, they're going to be bowing down to him and they didn't like his dreams. So they sold him. So what they thought that was going to be in a bad situation turned out to be good because he ended up interpreting dreams for Pharaoh, being the governor.
All
And
right. So let's be a little, because I ain't saying you're wrong because you are, but let's remember though,
because you are,
technically you are, no, they did wind up selling him, but they had to be convinced to sell him because they was
right,
gonna kill him at first.
that was going to kill him. Right. I mean,
It
of
was
course,
gonna kill him at first. That was the wild part of the whole thing. Like in Joseph's mind, he thought his brothers would be happy for him, when he revealed this dream, and it brought out this undiscussed anger that they wind up beating him up and put him in the pit and was like, "We gonna kill him later." And it took one brother to say, "No, let's not kill him. Let's just sell him." Like that's what's wild.
Well, so in that story right there, so let's look at it like this. So something bad did happen to Joseph. So he was, they were just and that's a great story. So let's look at that story. So the presence of evil is the jealousy that his brothers had for him,
True.
right?
hmm
The next part that you have here is that um Joseph was not the most humble cat either.
At all.
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? So there's his own what is good,
Arrogance.
what is good, right? Um, After you look at this, so then from there you go into the test. So now Joseph is in the pit, and he needs to see where he's at because the Joseph that believe that if you look at the Joseph that we first meet in the introduction, the Joseph that we meet when he ascends to his position is a much different Joseph. It's a more humble
Humble
Joseph
Joseph.
because of what he went through. So now, because of that, he has come out into look more the glory of Christ, to look more like the Christ that he's going to that is to come. So that's a great example of how bad things happen because in this situation here, Joseph gets to see who's really around him, and they get to see what's around him. You see the presence of evil and how people can be influenced by the situation that's going on, and you also see how God can put you in a situation that shows you who you are and transforms you. Everybody simply loves Philippians 4:13. And be honest with you, I mean, yeah, I think no, not 4:13. Is it 4:13?
Is
No,
it
Romans
is it
8.
Mr. 8? 8
It's
and
Romans 8
28.
and 28.
8:28.
Everyone loves it.
I mean, I think
Uh,
everybody loves Philippians 4 and 13 as
they do,
well
but
for a different reason.
Romans is where I want to go, right? Romans 8 and 28 says, where is it? Let me
We
find
know
it
that in
real quick.
all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose.
Mm-hmm. Keep it going.
Mhm.
Keep reading.
Well,
Go to 29 now.
Oh, we
right.
don't.
So we
Oh,
said he read 8:28.
I read 8:28.
Wait,
he
no,
read
no, no,
he
hold on,
read
hold on, hold on.
8:28
Wait, but hold on. 8:28 says what? According to those called to his purpose,
to his
right?
purpose.
So his
Hmm.
Right.
purpose. And then we get to 29, it says, because those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son, right? So
Right.
once again, what we see here is that when you're going through bad stuff, there is a time and place where you're now going to be transformed into the image of Christ.
Yeah. So I would say this. That it's I don't think everybody loves Roman 8 and 28 more. So it's 8 and 28 part A. They make that comma a period.
Well, the thing about Romans 8:28 is that it's what the Bible says. It's not just not in it's supposed to be an encouraging thing. So the idea is that I'm going through this thing to be transformed. The things that me and my wife had to go through transformed us into a better image of Christ, right? We were very angry. and bitter people. We're still angry and bitter people. We just have better control of our anger and bitterness now, and we know how to take it to God instead of taking it to each other in mean words. That's a sign of spiritual maturity, right? We know how to be more humble and more meek than we were before. And I just went off the mouth at the time I want to say something. And so the situation that we went through have matured us into a better image of Christ. And those are the things that you want to do. The
Yeah,
bad
but
things happen.
that's
The
understanding his purpose. What I'm saying is, I think for the most part, what people tend to do is make their purpose his purpose.
Well, once again, so this goes back to what we talked about last week when Justin said to me, um, when Justin said to me, I've been saying a pastor friend, what Justin said to me, stop looking at yourself and look at God because it's so easy to look at yourself. I could easily look at myself as I did at a point last year and say, why are you doing this to me? And you know what? It was funny because I kept saying, why are you doing this to me? And my wife would say, God was showing me him through your situation. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, shut what they call bloop up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going through the situation right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm
I,
feeling
I'm
this right
going through
now.
the storm, and you want to try to interject.
Right. But at the time
Mm.
frame, I was going through something that was showing her the glory of God, even though I didn't feel it. So the question now becomes here: what's more important, your feelings or the glory of God? And that's the crazy part about this growth that we go through sometimes is that we're asking ourselves, is it about is it about ourself or is it about the glory of God? You know what I'm saying? Um, and that's a real situation sometimes. We live in this world today where everybody is so self-centered. It's like, let me go and do me, hot girl summer and hot boy,
Can
Oh
all,
my
I
God.
say something?
we we in this era of me. And what's happening is that I don't know if people know this, but Jesus is on his way back. He's on his way back, and he probably already here. And we're so busy being suckered into the world's image of what happiness is. And then funny thing is that people get it and they're not happy. Why? Because happiness is only found in Christ. But I want to get back on this subject really quickly because here's the question now: why do bad things happen to good people who are not in the faith? And so if you're in the faith, you feel like, okay, everything is happening for my good. It's happening for me to look more like Christ. But if you're not in the faith, why would God allow bad things to happen to you?
See, okay. See, that becomes a loaded question. And the reason why that becomes a loaded question is because we can go with one or two answers. Number one. All right. Well, we can go one or two ways. Number one, we can say that basically if you are if you are a good person and you're going through bad things, then and you're not in the faith, this might be God's way of calling you to him. We can run down that street. Or the second thing we can say is, let's just say you are atheist, you really don't believe in God whatsoever. Um then now you gotta sit down and ask yourself, well, what is your foundation? Because if you're one of them people that says that, when you put good things into the universe, you get good things back, then you gotta probably start asking yourself questions like, well, are you really putting good things into the universe? Or are you just
Okay.
putting your selfish ambitions into the universe?
Okay, but I am putting good into the universe and I'm still getting bad things back. So once again, what is that causes that to happen? And I liked what I'm trying to act. I don't know who she is. I can know. I know who she. But I'm trying to act like it. I'm trying to get in my famous mode right here. Well, like Ebony says here, um, the Bible tells us that
It
good
rains on the
and
just
bad
and the
reigns on the
unjust
just
alike.
and the unjust. So that it isn't anything that you can do per se to stop those things because those things happen. The issue is that how do we respond to the situations that go
But
on?
again, I say that. when we use that, that's for people who are in the faith. We understand that. But you got to also remember that people that are not in the faith and are quote unquote spiritual and all about the universe, I think that's a whole different concept. That makes it a loaded question. Because for the three of us, we're going to bring it back to faith. We would need somebody else that's all about
Right.
the universe to kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, to kind of really try to like answer that.
Right. But see, here's the thing though. So see, we are called as ministers of reconciliation. That is our primary job. So when you talk to somebody out there in the world who is dealing with bad things happening, they don't want to hear nothing about that Jesus mess you talking right now.
Which
And
is so
so
true.
how do you teach, how do you help people understand that these bad things that are happening because of the
Nothing.
present
That
evil, because of these things, because once again, we got a comment here. Hold on. Parents teach their children how to respond and react to situation. So we earlier today, okay, so I didn't tell them this. I'll tell that one. I started this podcast on private, and so I had to turn to public during the middle of it. So there was a lot that there's a first half that was missed. My wife had to let me know it was on private.
oh,
But we
oh
talked.
wow, okay.
Mm.
But we hush, 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 hush. But we talked about how sometimes it's our own action and our own disobedience. We talked about how, like I know people who pray before they make any decision in a day, and how those, and sometimes it's our own selves that get ourselves in situations. We talked about a little bit also about how Job situation was an active test. Job didn't do anything per se to put himself in there, but Job and others had to see where he was, and so there's the test aspect of it. We also talked about how there is nobody that is technically good, and we looked at how Paul, when he compares himself to other people, calls himself the greatest apostle, but when he compares himself to Christ, he calls himself the chief of all sinners. So we kind of went down these roads, and I think as Christians, right, we have to learn how to communicate in a way that's not so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good. When we're
That's
talking
true.
to when because when you're witnessing to people, especially in today's age, we have gotten so accustomed. Eric Mason did a sermon this past Sunday called "Rebranding Jesus," where he did a survey, well, associate president survey. There are a lot of people out there who do not believe that Jesus is God. However, we have a lot of people dealing with depression and mental health issues that if you could really build a relationship with God, you know what I'm saying? It could help a lot of things because you realize that everything is working for your good. So, how do you communicate that to people who are in a space where they don't want to hear about your God? Now I have an answer to that. I just want to hear what anyone else got to say before I go to my answer with that.
Go ahead, Randall.
I mean, it's really hard to do. I mean, if their lives are so used to bad things, it's really hard to penetrate God into their life. If especially at a young age, if they wasn't introduced to it, if their parents didn't introduce them to God, why would you, when you're grown, be introducing then so things can turn around?
Okay, but a lot of people haven't introduced to God as a child, and they were
Uh
they are so let down by what they heard about God that they left the faith or they walked away from it. So what do you do
not
to
even
those?
what they
I mean,
not
they walk
even
away from it because of
I would say it's not even what they heard about God more so than the person who introduces them doesn't um doesn't really live that life.
How do you, because they don't want to hear that due to losing so much in life? So yeah, how do you communicate this? Because I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you what the real feeling is that God betrayed me. You know what I'm saying? That God betrayed me. And that because God betrayed me, I don't even like God anymore.
mm,
I should not have asked this question with Ebony on the line, but I want to say that Jesus did not walk up to people and instantly start talking about the Hebrew law. We see Jesus walk up to people, he uses parables that they can understand. And so you have to understand the situation that they're in. Some people don't need to hear about Christ at
Yeah,
that
I
moment.
don't.
They need to hear about they need to know that you're there for them and to watch how it is that you deal with the situation and circumstance that God brings your way. They need to see you.
In
And I think
short, you got to be relatable.
when it goes beyond being relatable because see, the devil's relatable. You know what
You
I'm
have
That's
to
saying?
true.
be relatable, or you have to be a witness to
Do you
other
know do you
other
know
people.
more sins happen because of who we are connected to than anything, who we seem to be relatable to? I could not let go of particular individuals in my life because I was so connected and they were so relatable to me. You know what I'm saying? When I was going through issues um with my wife, my boy Duke was the most relatable person. He always said I wanted to hear. It just felt like we were so connected to hear. And it was the most damaging situation I could have had at that time frame because we were both damaged individuals. You know what I'm saying? So the idea is not just being relatable, but it's being godly in that. So that way they look at you and they say, you're doing something different. And I think that's the toughest thing is that when you see their pain, when Jesus saw Mary and Martha in their situation there, he didn't go up there and he let them know who he was, and then he watched and he let them watch him do what he do. You have to meet people where they're at and give them what they need. And I think a lot of times in Christianity we've done that. We've tried to force our God on them when they don't need to hear that. They will come. My buddy Justin, what he did to me, he never forced God on me. He just slowly, I every Tuesday, just would leave. We be playing ball all day, and then he would just leave on Tuesday and walk to church every Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? And suddenly I'm like, man, his life is going good. I want to see what's going on with him. And now he's bringing me there. And all of a sudden, I'm learning that the things going on in my life is a multitude decision, but most of all because there is someone out there that loves me. But that took a 3-year period. It took a long 3-year period. It takes patience. It really takes the fruits of the spirit. And so I say that to say this sometimes bad things happen to good people because you need to see also where you're at. Where are you at spiritually? Where are you at? You know what I'm saying? Because you might think that, oh, I got it all together. And guess what? You ain't got it together because you can't even help the person that interest that they're in. Because guess what? You're not connected to the God above. You have to really understand that God causes these things to happen because he needs you to bring glory to him. And sometimes it's not directed by just saying his name. Sometimes it's just by, as Ebony said, um, living your life as an example. So yeah, that's my deep moment for the day. You know what I'm saying? I've been rehearsing that all day, studying that. So I had to throw
You've
that
probably
out
been
there.
rehearsing that all week.
I did,
He got it
I was
written down in his notes.
I do.
Every time he go to work, he go to work. See, that's how I know. He go
You
to.
Practice
know,
mirror.
Look, bro. Look, we
you
had
know,
these conversations some morning, and I'll be sitting here
Reba,
going, I know where
Reba,
this is coming from.
Reba be trying to get the baby to go to sleep and whatnot. I be on my iPad studying, and she be like, "Come get this baby." Like, I'm trying to write this point down. You know what I'm saying? So that was my it's
I'm shocked
all
I'm
about
shocked you
the
didn't have his
teaching
Apple
love.
Pencil.
Mhm.
I'm shocked you didn't have your Apple Pencil
It's right
writing
here.
it down.
It's right.
Oh, there we go.
It was right there.
Second
It was right there.
generation.
It was right
Second
there.
generation.
Yep, second generation. But no, I just think that, like Ebony said, like Reba is saying, we have to, sometimes all it takes is compassion and love. It's a little bit of sacrifice. I'm going to come out here because people will start to wonder. People will start beginning to wonder, why are you different? Why do you respond this way? I see your life is in shambles too. Why do you respond this way? And you ain't got to say out your mouth. Oh, when my life was messed up, this is what I was doing. They will see it for themselves and they will be drawn to him because Jesus is attractive. I'm letting you know he's attractive. So we got to get more like Christ and understand that. So, these are our reasons why, but these are my reasons why I research on why bad things happen to good people. Bad happen to good people. Yeah. It's a lot of things, but at the end of the day, everything in this life is to bring God glory. All things work together for the good for those who love Christ. God has already selected and predestined those who he has adopted to his family. And so if you are going through something, understand that it didn't catch God off by surprise. Now, I'm not going to tell you that's going to be always a happy ending because, we see that Paul was in jail. Peter was crucified upside down. John was exiled. But guess what? They weren't depressed. I ain't trying to be
Well,
exiled.
I mean, where are we defining the happy ending?
I'm pretty sure being crucified upside down is, is not, a good
I mean,
feeling.
if he, well, probably not in the flesh, but as far as he was concerned, hey, I'm going to go be with the Father. So I ain't got to suffer no more.
I get that, but I'm just saying, I'd rather go in my sleep than to go upside down crucified.
Yeah, but it sent a huge message.
Yeah, that hurt. That would have sent. Let me know that hurt. Like,
I mean, I think we all have ways we would want to go, but unfortunately, it just might not go that way. I just
well,
pray that when the time comes, like, hey,
we, me and Reed.
I mean, look at
Oh, my
Jesus.
cousin Daniel. My cousin Daniel's on.
I
Good morning.
mean,
Good evening, Daniel.
let's look at,
No, I'm just saying that, while God can give you a happy ending, there also are times where God will let you just suffer. And it's okay because we know that whatever happens is going to bring God ultimate glory. And, I have my wife and, you know, um, so we have kids and we sacrifice, everyone here sacrifices for their kids. You know, if you didn't have kids, actually for $100 of some doggone Robux, you probably pay your cable on time and, get you a few steaks and whatnot for the house. But we have to sacrifice for, the people that we love. And sometimes in this life, you said that you love Christ. Christ sometimes will say to you, do you really love me? I'm gonna do this.
give me your car.
And you know what I'm saying?
Give me
How you
your
gonna do it?
car.
Yeah,
Would
right.
you take the bus to church?
Do you know that Noah Nicholson gave away I think it was a Maserati because God told him to give one away?
No, I didn't know that.
He gave away the
Mm, yeah.
Maserati and he struggled with it, and God said, "So you don't trust me enough to give away your Maserati that I gave you in the first place." And then he asked his son for a fry, and his son refused to give him a fry. And he was like, "I just bought you this whole Happy
Oh,
Meal."
but I mean,
And
it's funny you say that though, because let's really look at that example in the sense. Because I will say this. I think that a lot of times with my ex-wife, when I would buy the food, and
I
my
have
daughter would
taken
say,
the bus to church as the pastor. Yeah, like that.
I haven't taken it as a pastor because I'm not one, but I've taken the bus to church and the train many a times. It's actually quite relaxing because I ain't got to deal with traffic.
But see, I think the thing is that you God will put you in a situation to be uncomfortable in order to see whether you're down for Him. And that's what I'm
That
trying to
that
say.
no, that's true. But I mean,
You
the
know,
first few times you take it, it is. It's
I hate I
it's
hate
very
the bus.
uncomfortable.
I hate it, and I hate the bus so much that me and Justin will walk to church. We will walk 3 miles to church.
Well, unfortunately, I can't walk from downtown Chicago
You ain't taking no.
all
We're
the
not
way
okay.
how.
I'm finna block Rewa because Rewa knows she ain't never took no bus in her life. Reba don't know how to take a bus.
I mean, she has probably taken it to Church's Chicken. She just forgot to include that part, back in
And
her younger days.
no, actually, no. You know what? She probably has. She probably has taken a bus. I don't know, but yeah, you have to do. You have to like. I walked to church, and then soon enough, God blessed me with a friend with a car, and then God bless. Okay, I gotta get off the best. We are not exempt from struggle. The struggle that God allows us to go through makes us better. So we actually talked about earlier today how we talked about Romans 8 and 28 and 29,
Nah,
where people seem to forget about 29. But we talked about where it says all things work together for those who love God, for those who are called according to His purpose, because those whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son. And so, just going on the fact that God will put us in situations that cause us to want to cause us to become more like Him.
I
Um,
think that's a good question. How bad do you want your relationship with Christ?
and so yeah, that's why I put the emphasis on conform. Daniel, see, I'm trying in my life. Um, but yeah, no, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Because at the end of the day, like I said, I think that a lot of pastors, not talking about Daniel, but a lot of pastors, we talk about how good God is, but we also forget that sometimes as a parent, you have to hurt your child a little bit in order for them to understand the lesson. We ain't trying to kill them, but we do need to give them, a little
Some
tapping so they can
discipline.
realize that,
Some discipline.
where you're
I,
at.
you know what? I say the only reason why for me, the only reason why I always stay away from framing it as hurt is because sometimes hurt comes with no purpose. That's why I always just really just stick to the
I
point of
disagree. I
discipline.
disagree. I disagree. I think all hurt has a purpose.
Yeah, I
All hurt,
just
all
Correct,
hurt
bro.
has a purpose. Um,
if you want to, well, okay, the purpose can be selfish, but it's not always to really build the character up of the child in a godly way.
I think that you have to see that's the problem that we're talking about here is that we have to try to find out what is the purpose of because sometimes maybe if Daniel hurts me and I did nothing to Daniel, then maybe God trying to show me where Daniel needs healing or prayer at. You know what I'm saying? So all hurt has a purpose. The question is that are you intact enough to figure out what is God calling you to do in that moment with that pain? That's what I'm trying to say is that because see, the Bible didn't say some things work for the good. It says all things.
Thanks for
That
the
means that
good.
everything that happened has to have some type of. I know you won't, Daniel. I know you won't, but I'm making the point. So all hurt has to have some type of purpose at the end game because because if it doesn't, then that makes God a liar. And I know we ain't trying to call God no liar here. He said all things work for the good. So that's the thing that we know that we have to really understand there is that the pain that we go through has some type of benefit to God. And now the question is that who who is going to give God the glory in that situation? As bad as it may look, as bleak as it look, who's going to come through and be more like Christ because of that? You know what I'm saying? It may be that something happened better to somebody else, and you become more like Christ because you become more compassionate than you ever was before in that situation. Or you may learn, you know what? Next time guys say don't go to that party, I ain't gonna go to that
Don't
party.
go to that party.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't
Listen,
go down that alley.
my wife told me a long time ago that any street that ends with a 9 and a 3 on the south side of Chicago, you don't go. So I got wisdom from her that day. If it ain't with a 9 or 3, I ain't going. You know what I'm saying?
So that's why you didn't come visit me when I was on 83rd and
Exactly.
Blind.
So it's just fact. It's fact. I follow wisdom.
But I'm gonna tell you how he does it because you came to visit me when I was on 9969 South True.
That's a judgment.
Yeah,
Listen, listen, listen,
See,
listen, listen,
I would
listen,
dare you. That's not always true. That's
listen,
not
listen,
always true.
listen. Hold on, we gotta go from Ebony here. All the hurt they had experienced by the hand of I can't pronounce that name, but you are right. Ended up.
Penaniah.
Yeah, I can. That's what mean in NNS.
I did it for you, Penaniah.
Oh, okay. Ended up being for good, and yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. All. But look, y'all, we've been on here for an hour, and my wife needs me to go to the grocery store. And if I don't go to the grocery store, she gonna put me in pain, and I'm gonna learn in that lesson that when she tell me
Oh,
to go get food,
she gonna give you Elijah to yell at you in your ear like
no,
you
what she
did
gonna
me.
no, what she gonna do is that she gonna yell at me, and then let Elijah yell at me, and I'm gonna learn in that message that when my wife is hungry, I need to feed her and make sure there's food in the house to just make sure that she's happy.
No,
No,
you just need to
Daniel,
make sure it's just food in the house before you leave.
I saw you doing the Giving Tuesday. So honestly, we did one for my organization that I work for. Um
Oh yeah, today is Giving Tuesday.
no, I'm going, yeah. But look, you all. So Daniel, can you put in the chat where the address of your church is in? Where your the address of your church? Daniel is a pastor. He has a great pastor. And he also sing really, really well. I told him everything he knows about how to sing. And whenever,
So you let him listen to a lot of Michael Jackson.
I know he sings better than Michael Jackson, and that's a lot coming from me. So his church is Spirit Redeemed. It is at 6615 South Ashland. Um, so Daniel, that I mean not Daniel,
No,
Randall,
say that again. Say that again.
spiritredeemedchicago.org is the website. 6615 South Ashland in Chicago.
Oh, right when you going to the green line.
spiritredeemedchicago.org. So if you all want, in Chicago, and you're on the south side, you don't want to travel all the way up north to what church you go to, Robbie?
Grace and Truth Apostolic Church,
And where that's at?
2811 West Toohey.
All right. So you can always go up there. And if you're in San Diego, we go to a bunch of churches. So you have to hit me in my email because me and Reba, we would go to a
I
bunch
mean,
of
if you
churches.
in San Diego, you can just do live.graceandtruth.org.
Well, we also believe that you need to be in the spiritual community and around the people. Your pastor has got on us many times for not being a part of a community. So,
That is true
you,
too. We do believe in community. So until you find one, you can go to live.graceandtruth.org.
all right. Well, see, that's a real plug right there. Uh, but thank you all for tuning in again this week. We really appreciate it. We've hit 500 subscribers on YouTube, everybody. So, and if you are in Atlanta, check out Arise Church Atlanta. That's a right. Do you have the address for that, Ebony? I'm gonna start doing a church check-in at the beginning of these podcasts, just to. But yeah, I'm waiting for her to put the address in there. Um, Robbie, what are we talking about next week? I don't have my calendar up. What are we talking about
Ah,
next week?
all right. So next week's conversation: what is the covenant and why is it important in the Christian life?
All right. So next we're talking about what is the covenant and why is it important in a Christian's life. That is next week's topic. Thank you all so much. I do appreciate this. I promise you all. When we first started this thing, we were at 200 subscribers, and we have jumped to 508 in just these 3 weeks. And it's because of people like you that support and watch the show. So we thank you all for that. Um, and until next week, God bless. And please go subscribe to Daniel Garrett Ministries on YouTube and Spirit Redeemed Missionary Baptist Church on YouTube. Please go subscribe. And maybe next week we get Daniel on here and he could talk with us about why the covenant is so important. This must be a Robbie topic because I can't remember the topic that we came up with.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
my topic. Yeah, whatever.
Good night. God bless. God is good all the time. Peace.